Shalom everybody, welcome to Torah Jewce. I'm Joshua, and we're going to talk about this week's Torah portion, which is Lech Lecha. And let's turn in the book of Genesis, if you would with me please, to chapter 12. Hashem said to Avram, "Go for yourself from your land, from your relatives, and from your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who curses you I will curse, and all the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you." Have you ever felt like you've been asked by Hashem to do something? Have you ever read in the Torah or in the Hebrew Bible, and felt like it was speaking to you, and you felt compelled to do something? Well, Hashem spoke directly to Abraham. Well, his name was Avram. Later his name will be changed to Abraham. And Hashem tells him that you need to pick yourself up from this land, from where you were born. Now, Abraham was he wasn't a Jew. He was born a Gentile, right? There really wasn't anything. There weren't really any Jews or Gentiles at this time necessarily. He was born not in the land of Canaan or Canaan. He was born in a different place. In fact, that's where his family grew up, and he was seen as the first monotheist of his time, which is kind of interesting. But the tradition tells us that he learned Torah in the tents of Shem and Eber. Now, Shem being the son of Noah, and Jewish tradition teaches this, that's Melchizedek, and also Eber, which actually translates to from the other side of the river. And that's where we get the word Ivri in Hebrew, which means Hebrew, because Abraham was from the other side, okay, from the other side of the river, which has, you can really look into that from a different perspective and say from the other side, the difference between light and darkness, the difference between idolatry and believing in the one true God, which that's what Abraham Avinu, which means our father Abraham, did. All right. So Hashem asks Avram, well, he doesn't ask him, he tells him, he says, "Go for yourself from your land, from your relatives, and from your father's house to the land that I will show you." Have you ever been asked to move? I know my family moved 3 times when I was growing up, all for the sake of my father's job, because he was loyal to his work, and he also wanted to provide for his family, which is a father's responsibility to do so. So we moved from our small little town in Tennessee and moved to a little bigger town on the outskirts of Tupelo, still a small town, Verona, a few thousand people, but Tupelo was about 40,000. Much larger than the small town that we came from, but I was only 3. And then when I was 15, we moved to Phoenix, Arizona, which is like the 5th largest city in the country, which was quite a bit of a change. It was quite a bit of a culture shock in a lot of ways to come to this. Now this city is not like New York City; it's spread out all over the place, but it's a city nonetheless, and lots of people. But I've been here almost, 25 years almost. So, been here a long time. Maybe you've experienced the same type of thing, where your job has expected you to pick up and move your family to go somewhere else. And maybe you struggled with the thought of that in some ways, but you kind of knew where you were going. You knew the job that was going to be required of you when you got there. Yes, you were going to have to probably make new friends and move away from your family. And some people don't have any problem with that at all. And there's, Some people have a problem moving away from family and friends. I know that it would be a very difficult thing for me to move away from my family here. And even though I have family even thousands of miles, away from me here, and we're still in the same country. What would it be like to just get up and move to a place that Hashem, He just says go. He doesn't ask, He tells you. Well, that's kind of what He's saying here, isn't He? Abraham is seen as being the very first Jew, the very first Hebrew. He circumcises himself and his sons and his family, and he becomes the first for that covenant in the flesh. And what do you think Abraham did? Well, if you know the story, you know what he did. Picked up his family and left. He picked up his family and left. There wasn't any question. In fact, if you look at verse 4, Abraham went as Hashem had spoken to him, and Lot went after him. So, and he was 75 years old. He was 75 years old when he left. So, now, yes, ages were different back then, but still 75 years old. So what if Hashem tells you when you're, 40, 50, 30, 20, you know what? You need to be in the land where you belong. You might be thinking, Joshua, what are you saying? Well, Israel is the homeland and the heritage and the inheritance that Hashem gave to His people, the Jewish people. And with all the politics and all the pressuring, especially by the government here in the United States, all the Jews throughout the entire world that don't live in Israel are in the exile. But are we in the exile by choice? Or are we in the exile because Hashem wants us to be here for now? That's something that we all struggle with. You could say, this mitzvah right here tells us we should follow what He says. We should go. We should go live in the land. And a lot of proponents for all the Jews to come to Israel. There's a big push. Jewish Agency, Nefesh B'Nefesh. There are individuals who, bloggers who are saying, come to the land. All Jews need to come to the land. And there are even some Jews and some rabbis that said, don't go right now because you're just gonna, you're gonna all be in one spot for your enemy to be able to get you. That kind of takes away the power of Hashem. It doesn't matter where the people are. If Hashem wants people to be, put through that, then it doesn't matter. But are we being obedient? Am I being obedient by staying here in the United States as a Jew? Is my family being obedient? Those who are Jews, are we being obedient by staying in Babylon or Egypt or whatever you want to call this place, or the places in Europe and everywhere? A huge amount of Jews didn't leave Babylon when they were allowed to go back to rebuild the temple. The sages teach us only 1 in 5 left Egypt. That's not a lot. Sure, they had Moshe Rabbeinu to lead them out, but we have the Torah, we have the prophets. What's really keeping us here? Is it our fear? People say, oh, it's so dangerous in Israel. Oh, people are trying to kill Jews all the time. If Hashem wants you to die, if your time is up, it's not going to matter if you're in Israel or if you're in the United States or in Britain or Australia. It doesn't matter where you are going to be. Whenever your time is done, Hashem's going to call you. You could be of perfect health. And so it doesn't really matter. So what should we do? Should we be like Abraham Avinu? Should we be like him and say, well, not even say, just go? That's something that we all have to decide, something we all have to pray about. Hashem tells us in the prophets that He will gather us in. He will bring us back. Is the call going out now? A lot of people are making aliyah to Israel. A lot of people from North America and Europe. Some are using the economic situation to do that, and maybe that will cause a lot more to go. Who's to say? We don't know that. But Hashem, I think, will make it clear. He will raise a banner for us. and He will show us. You know, banner is the same. It's kind of the same word for miracle. I mean, it's ness. So it's kind of an interesting concept, and we may talk about it some other time. But should we be like Abram? Should we go and settle the land and be the people that Hashem has called us to be, along with the mixed multitude, along with the stranger that dwells among us, and be the lights to the nations that we're supposed to be? Or are we going to continue to fight among ourselves and not have any unity whatsoever, and just cower to our enemies in some respects, and bow to the pressure of the Gentiles, especially here in the United States, to bow to the pressure of the people who don't have any fear of God or any thought of God whatsoever? For what? For a dollar? I mean, Hashem provides our needs, not Barack Obama, not the United States government, not anybody. We don't need them, but they surely need Israel. They surely need Israel. The world needs Israel, and the world needs Israel to be Israel. And it's very, and as Israel goes, the world goes. And I know there are a lot of people who are praying, and a lot of people who are moving and doing mitzvot and doing things to prepare. So we hope Mashiach comes soon and establishes the kingdom the way it should be, the way it will be, and that we will begin working on the temple. So when He comes, that He will help us to finish it and bring about this wonderful messianic age. But until then, we must be about Hashem's work. So what does that mean? Should we stay in the nations that we're in to try and be a light here? Because obviously Hashem put us here for a reason. Or did Hashem put us here so that we make our way back? That's something that each individual, I think, has to work out with Hashem and pray about it. And if Hashem wants you there, I think He'll make a way. And if the way is very, very, very difficult, I think that's probably a sign that you need to stay for a while. But that thought of going should always be in our minds, because that is our home. That is a pull. I've never been to Israel. I love Israel. I don't know what draws me to Israel, and the feeling I get when I think about her. It's hard to describe. I would have no problem moving there with no fear whatsoever, because I feel like that's my home. I feel like that's where I need to be. But at the moment, I also think that Hashem wants me here. Now, could that be just a fear that I have not recognized? Sure. I try and leave everything open so I can truly understand. But hopefully, I know at some point we're all going to be there. So it'll be, and that'll be a joyous time. And we'll be able to see the temple and see Mashiach there as well. Well, I hope you've had a good time listening to Lech Lecha, and contemplate what we should be about. Obviously, we should support Israel. It says it very clear. Those who bless you will be blessed, and those who curse you will be cursed. If our administration here in the United States doesn't hear this message very clearly, we're going to have another terrible thing happen, like Katrina, like 9/11, like all the tornadoes and the fires that we've had in the past whenever we've pressured Israel to give up land and concede to her enemies. It's documented, and it's proven fact. So, what do you think our construction, our housing construction and mortgages and people getting kicked out of their houses are so terrible here in the United States? Building freeze in Israel? Does that ring a bell? Why do you think it's so terrible here? Because our government has placed a building freeze, or pressured Israel to freeze construction. Why do you think it's so difficult here? You do the math. So may Hashem bless you and keep you, and tune in next week for the next Torah portion. Shalom Uvracha.